Alright, Shalom. I like to say Kahalayam Wahawadlah, Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakakodash. Right, double on the apostles and others of great millstone of Rubel. Please and blessing to the Akimoni will have pushed this truth to the four corners of the earth, right? His brother Yarba. I said I'll go through some precepts. I'll entitle it somewhere along the lines of that old serpent, the devil and Satan is not who you thought. Right, somewhere along the lines. You know, I was watching the brother from Seers of Israel, and he was talking something about the dragon and so forth. You know, inspired me to do this video because people just think that that dragon in Revelation represents the spiritual Satan. You understand? And they don't understand the scriptures, right? They don't understand the scriptures at all. But we'll go through it, right? I'll start with the one in Revelations first. Revelations 12 is from around verse 9, right? Revelations 12 verse 9. It says, and the dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, right? Which deceived the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him, right? The scriptures talk about the devil, and Satan, who deceived the whole earth. And people like to think that refer to the spiritual Satan, who deceived people into thinking blah blah whatever these Christians just teach. Right? When you go to Satan, right? This is when you go to Satan, this is, it says, was adversary, one who opposes another in opposition or act. The name given to, it said, the prince of evil spirits, the inveterate adversary of God and Christ, right? You see what it's saying here, right? It say he incites apostasy from the Most High and to sin, right? So I have a few definitions of it here. Some of them are accurate, and some of them, you know, that Esau just threw it in to try to throw you off. When you look at the Strongs, it say what? It says this is G4568, right? Satanas.
Strong's G4567, Satanas.
Oh, sorry, 67, sorry.
Satanas.
68 is the next one. So
Thayer's lexicon, Satan. Satan.
Right? So this is G4567. This is Revelation, right? Now you go to the Luke now. That was what? Luke 10, I think it was around 18. Luke 10 verse 18, right? Luke 10 verse 18. Same thing, right? 4567. Now let me go to Job, right? Because I have a record in Job about Satan being in the council of the Lord, right? Let me read it first before I go to the Strongs. It say Job 1 verse 6, right? It say, now there was a day when the sons of the Most High came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them. Why? Because he is one of the sons of the Most High, right? He's what it is referred to as, scripture referred to as in Psalms as a what? An evil angel. Right? Let me look at the Strongs. It say, and Satan. No, you see, and this is something completely different. Right? This is not the same Satan. Because if you actually just read the scriptures and you go into the etymology and so forth, you will know that when you go into the etymology of a word, it don't always mean the same thing. Like for example, the word world. For the word world, it means cosmos, it means eon. It's only when you actually go into the etymology of that particular word, you will know exactly what it's referring to. And when you go into the etymology of this, as you're seeing, is a different word. You understand? It's not the same thing. But let me go into some more precepts to actually show how this is not the same thing you're referring to, right? I'll start with Daniel 2. Because even if a person don't want to understand it from that perspective, they'll understand it. If they can't understand it from this perspective, then it's not for them, right? They say in Daniel 2, I'll start from 31, right? Now, for anybody who know about the story of Daniel 2, I wouldn't go start from the top, but it was when Nebuchadnezzar dreamed a dream with the statue of Nebuchadnezzar. Most people know about that statue, right? With the head of gold and so forth, and the chest plate of silver, the waist of somewhere around the thighs of bronze, and the feet of iron, right? And he was troubled by the dream because he didn't know what it meant. And Daniel had to pray to the Lord to be able to get the interpretation of the dream, right? Alright, Daniel 2, I'll start from 31 and say, Thou, O king, sawest, and behold, a great image. This great image, whose brightness was excellent, stood before thee. And the form thereof was terrible, right? So it wasn't a pleasant dream he had. You know, even though we might see it as a nice thing. However, he received the dream, it was troubling to him. It was so troubling that he had to find out what the meaning of it was. Right? Verse 32 is say, this image's head was of fine gold, his breasts and his arms of silver, his belly and his thighs of brass, his legs of iron, his feet of part iron and part of clay, right? It said, Thou sawest still that a stone was cut out without hands, which smote the image upon his feet, that were of iron and clay, and broke them in pieces, right? So he dreamed the statue with all those different elements, and then he dreamed a rock just smash the statue until it was like nothing, right? It said, Then was the iron, the clay, the brass, the silver, the gold broken to pieces together, and become like a shaft of the summer thresh flower, and the wind carried them away. So imagine this statue that was made up of elements of different metals. This rock smashed it so much that, you know, it was like dust that the wind could just blow it away after. That showed the kind of destruction he saw the statue receive, right? It said that no place was found for them, right? And the stone that smote the image became a great mountain and filled the whole earth, right? It said, This is the dream, and we will tell the interpretation thereof before the king. It said, Thou, O king, art a king of kings. At that point in time, Nebuchadnezzar, he was the one in charge, right? He was like, you know, his kingdom was like the power structure. Nobody couldn't come up against him at that point in time because the Lord had set him to rule for that period, right? It says, For the Most High of heaven had given thee a kingdom, power and strength and glory. And wheresoever the child of men dwell, the beasts of the field and the fowls of the heaven had he given into thine hands, and had made thee ruler over them all. It said, Thou art this head of gold, right? It said, Thou art this head of gold. So he was the golden head on the statue, right? Which represents the Assyrian and Babylonian Empire. When they go deeper into the beasts and so forth, in the Daniel, you know, it tells more detail in the Daniel 7 and Daniel 8 breakdown, right? But he was the head of gold, right? And after thee shall arise another kingdom inferior to thee, and another third kingdom of brass, which shall bear rule over all the earth. And the fourth kingdom, now you see, I'm stressing on the word kingdom, because people doesn't understand this part, right? Now you say verse 40, you say, And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, right? The fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces, and subdueth all things. And as iron that breaketh, all these shall it break in pieces and bruise, right? Verse 41 is say, And whereas thou sawest the feet and toes, part of part of potter's clay and part of iron, the kingdom shall be divided, but there shall be in it of the strength of the iron, for as much as thou sawest the iron mixed with murky clay, right? So you say what? You say you always say feet and toes, right? Now the statue had what? 10 toes, right? The statue had 10 toes. And the scriptures also said what? This was a kingdom, right? So the statue had 10 toes. You see, there's Daniel 7 verse 7. It say, after this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast. Now this is the fourth beast, which represents the iron, because the iron was the fourth out of the statue, right? Gold, silver, brass, iron, right? And this was what? The fourth beast, which represents the same thing, right? After this I saw in the night vision, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth. See, it had great iron teeth. So you see the comparisons between the two of them. Because this was, the first one was the dream that Nebuchadnezzar got, that Daniel had to get afterwards and then break it down for him. And this was a dream that the Lord showed Daniel himself, which is the same thing, but he just gave him it in a different form, right? I'll read it over. It say, after this I saw in a night vision, and behold, a fourth beast. It say, dreadful and terrible, and strong exceedingly, and it had great iron teeth, iron feet, iron teeth. It say, it devoured and brake in pieces, and stamped the residue with the feet of it. Right? It say, it was diverse. It was diverse from all the beasts that were before it. Right? Because when you look at the gold head, the chest, and so forth, in the Daniel here, they had other animals to actually suit that same vision also. Just a different interpretation, right? Right. And I say the stamped the residue with the feet of it, and it was diverse from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns, iron teeth, iron feet. 10 horns, 10 toes is the same thing. And what did Daniel tell Nebuchadnezzar? These are kingdoms. You understand? Now pay attention to the 10 horns, because people, that is jump over people's head. But first, before I go to that, right, I want to touch on something in the Maccabees, right? Because the scriptures say what? The beast was diverse from all the rest. Matter of fact, before I get there, I'll get there in a second. Let me go to the Revelation, right? To make the comparison. Let me go to the Revelation to make the comparison. Now you see the comparison with the Daniel 2, the iron feet, 10 toes, Daniel 7, the iron teeth, the 10 horns. Right? So say the Revelation 17, I'll start from 1. It say, and there came Salakia. It say, and there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 veils, and talked with me, saying unto me, come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. Right? It say, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication, which goes back to what the philosophies that this system does promote, right? Because that whore that sit on the beast, that represent America, and the beast itself represents what? The United Nations, right? NATO and the EU, right? That is what the beast represents, right? Verse 3, right? It say, and he carried me away into the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting upon a scarlet colored beast. Right? Now this beast you're seeing here, this beast is the same dragon. Like you even see the pictures of the woman sitting down on the dragon. This beast is the same dragon with the 7 heads, 10 horns. Is the same beast in Daniel 7. the seven with the 10 horns and the iron teeth is the same statue in Nebuchadnezzar, the feet of iron with 10 toes. Is the same thing, just given in different ways, right? Yes, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. You see, 10 horns. Same thing in Daniel 7, 10 horns. This referring to the same beast. And again, what did he tell What did he tell Nebuchadnezzar? He said these are kingdoms. It's not a spiritual being that going and come and have a big battle with a dragon flying around in the sky, right? But I want to touch on something when it said what this beast is diverse from all the rest, right? We talk about in Daniel 7. This is one of the reasons why it's diverse, and you even see its characteristics in this system today to show that, you know, it lining up. It said if first Maccabees 8, I'll start from 1, right? They say now Judas had heard of the Romans, which is the time we are now, right? We under the Roman Empire, right? As all the elders just break it down with the left leg and with the left foot and the right foot. You understand? Even in Revelation, where you say where the beast received a wound, and then the wound was healed. You understand? When the beast received the wound, that was the ancient Roman Empire when it fell, and then when the wound was healed, that represented when Rome got back its power structure, which is what we under right now. We under the modern day Rome, which is Babylon, right? Which is Mystery Babylon, America, and NATO and the EU and so forth. This is the modern day Rome, and you even see that by the characteristics that us follow. When you look at America's emblem, you see it's what an eagle. When you look at the Roman emblem, is an eagle. Even way that they just go about doing things is the same as the ancient Romans used to do it, because it's the same people, right? When the beast received the wound and the wound was healed, that is what we're referring to. When Rome lost its power and then Rome got its power back, but now it's in the modern day Roman version. People actually think that beast actually receive a cut on the hand and then it take a while for the cut to heal. Yo, these things are allegories. You understand? Dark sayings, parables. It's the first Maccabees 8, I'll start from 1, right? It said now Judas had heard of the Romans, that they were mighty and valiant men, and such as would lovingly accept all that joined themselves unto them, and make a league of amity with all that came unto them, right? Verse 2 it says, and that they were men of great valor. It was told him also of their wars and noble acts which they had done among the Galatians, and how they had conquered them and bring them under tribute, and what they had done in the country of Spain for the winning of the mines of the silver and gold which is there. Right, I want to skip down to to verse 13, right? It say also that whom they would help to a kingdom, those reign, right? So who they wanted to help, they let them reign, but they be under tribute to them, and whom again they displaced finally, that they were greatly exalted. It say, yet for all this none of them wore a crown, or was clothed in purple, to be magnified thereby. And this showing you how this beast, this one example of how this beast was diverse from all the rest. Because when you look at the Babylonian Empire, Medo-Persian Empire, even the Greek Empire, they used to wear crowns. You understand? They were like kings. But the Roman Empire was different to those other kingdoms, right? And you're seeing examples while I'm reading, right? So say none of them wore a crown or clothed in purple to be magnified thereby. You say moreover, you say moreover how they had made for themselves a senate house, wherein 320 men sat counseling daily. What is sounding like? politics, right? When there's be sitting down in the little political room and debating on different legislations and so forth, right? You're seeing the actual characteristics of Rome, of ancient Rome, in modern day Rome, because even countries outside of America, they deal with things like this. Why? Because they were taught by the American structure of how to deal with things in this way. Even when you have like the world summits and so forth, all of them is come and sit down and counsel about how things should be done. All of these is characteristics of ancient Rome, right? It's say moreover they had made for themselves a senate house wherein 320 men sat and counseled daily. It's a consulting always for the people, to the end they might be well ordered. It's a and that they committed their government to one man every year. What are sounding like politics, election, right? And that they committed their government to one man every year, who ruled over all their country, and that all were obedient to that one, and that there was neither envy nor emulsion, no emulation among them. So what are sounding like? So you're seeing the characteristics of the ancient Roman Empire in this modern day Roman Empire. The scriptures say what? This beast was diverse from all the rest, because how it is function and do things was different to how the other kingdoms was. Right? So there's I'll go to Revelation now. Revelation 12, I'll read over verse 9, right? It say, and the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, the devil and Satan. But we already acknowledge the fact that the Satan they're referring to here is not the same Satan in the story of Job. You understand? This Satan, these different terms, they call them the serpent, deceiver, devil, deceiver, Satan, adversary. All these referring to who? To Esau and his power structure, the Roman Empire. You understand? America, NATO and the EU, the allied countries. Right? That is who it's referring to. It's not referring to a spiritual being or actual dragon that is fly and no. Right? Which deceived the whole world. And how did they deceive the whole world? Through their philosophies. You understand? Through the different things that they just teach people, manipulating people's belief of what right and wrong is, trying to teach the whole world that women equal to men. You understand? That homosexuality is okay. It have many different things that you could go through that shows that they deceive the whole world. You understand? And that generational deceit. You understand? Most countries is actually do things and they don't even know why they just do it. But that is just what they were taught, because they were deceived to think that is how it's supposed to be. Majority of countries don't even hold fast to their own traditions anymore. They just hold fast to American traditions that were taught to them. They did deceive the whole world. And another way that they deceive the world is by what? Is by making everybody believe that the Messiah used to look like them, that the prophets used to look like them, that the Messiah does look like them. They deceive the whole world in many different ways. You understand? How did the spiritual Satan go about doing that? You understand? You actually see the characteristics. They say which deceived the whole world. They say he was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And these angels represents what? His military might. The ones that do service unto him. You understand? Verse 10 it say, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation and strength, and the kingdom of our power, the kingdom of Yahweh, and the power of his Mashiach, right? It say, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down. Now you had a process where it say here, right? It say, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down. Satan was never classed as anybody's brethren. But who was classed as somebody's brethren? In Obadiah tell you that it say, for thy violence against thy brother Jacob. So who the scriptures telling you who we're talking about? It say, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down. We know who it referring to, which is that old serpent, the devil and Satan. He was cast down. It's Esau and this power structure they're talking about. They say, which accuse them before our power day and night, because they do accuse us in many different ways, right? It say, and they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, right? The saints, and they love not their lives unto the death, right? The scriptures say what? If you love your life, you will lose it, but if you lose your life for his sake, you'll find it, right? Just paraphrasing, right? It say, therefore rejoice, verse 12, it say, therefore rejoice, ye heavens. No, well, that go into something else, but as the scripture showing you who it is actually referring to. Say the accuser of our brethren. That could never be the spiritual Satan. Who was the spiritual Satan ever related to? I have another precept here to actually prove that point, because this same battle was talked about in Esdras, right? The same battle where, you know, they would rise up against who the fight going and take place between was spoken about in Esdras, and it didn't say anything about a fight between the Lord and the spiritual being Satan. Let me see what it say. 2nd Esdras 13. Right? I'll start from verse 3, right? Verse 3. 2nd Esdras 13, verse 3. It say, and I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven, and when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that was seen under him, and all those things that were trembling, you understand? It was people. It was literally people. It wasn't no demons coming out from the ground and they was frightened to fight with him. It's people they're talking about. They're even talking about building space stations and alien invasions. The elites know this going to happen. You understand? They preparing for it because the Lord put it in them to prepare for it, because they had to fulfill this prophecy. You understand? But it's not talking about fighting any spiritual beings. This is an actual fight between the Lord and his angels and Esau's power structure and their military might, which are classed as their angels. Right? Verse 4, it say, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth faileth when it feeleth the fire. And it say, and after this I beheld, Salakia, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men, not demons, not Satan, spiritual Satan, right? Not incubuses and succubuses. It said they were gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of the earth, from the four winds of the heaven, to subdue the man that came out of the sea. And that man that came out of the sea is who? Mashiach, right? It say, but I beheld, and lo, he had graven himself a great mountain and flew upon it. And that mountain they talk about representing a chariot. But like I said in previous videos, the prophets didn't really know how to explain these things because they don't know it as a UFO or whatever they might call it in these modern times. So they refer to it as a chariot because a chariot is something that they would have ride back then as transport, right? Right, a great mountain and flew up upon it. But let me see why he referred to it as a mountain, right? But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And that is show you how big the chariot was, which people as class as UFOs, but actually is a chariot to the Lord. And it was so big he couldn't even tell where it start from where it finish. You understand? It covered the whole sky. And this is something that yet to happen. So this is something that the world is going to experience for those who live to see it, right? It say, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were so afraid, and yet does fight. And this is something that the Lord put in them to do, because they must fulfill this. They had to fight him in that time and be destroyed. Right? So this showing you, this actually giving you a more detailed breakdown of this dragon that fighting against the Lord. Is not the Satan as people think. You understand? It represents Esau and his power structure. Right? Verse 9 is saying, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lifted up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath, and out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude which was prepared to fight, and burned them up every one, so that upon a sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived but only dust and the smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So the scripture showing you what, that the Lord coming back to destroy Esau, his armies, and his power structure. You understand? When you go back to Daniel, wait, see? When you go back to Daniel, what does it say? Daniel 2 verse 44, and it say, and in the days of these kings shall the Yahweh of heaven set up a kingdom, because that what Mashiach coming back to do. Coming back to destroy this kingdom and set up his kingdom, right, under Israel. It say, which shall never be destroyed, and the kingdom shall not be left to other people, right? Shall not be left to other people, but it shall break in pieces and consume all these kingdoms, and it shall stand forever. Right? So the kingdom of heaven is really the kingdom of Israel. Verse 45, right? It say, for as much as thou sawest that the stone was cut out of the mountain without hands, and that it break in pieces the iron, the brass, the clay, the silver, and the gold. So you see that this is exactly what we just read in Esdras in a different way. It say break in pieces the entire statue, the kingdom, the power structure, which is exactly he saw the fight, and he zapped everybody and take everybody out and destroyed everything. Right? This is it giving you the same breakdown in a different way. But going back to the original thing I was saying, the feet in Daniel 2, 10 toes, in Daniel 7 verse 7, the iron teeth and 10 horns. The dragon in Revelation with the 10 horns is the same thing. It's not representing a spiritual Satan. It represents a kingdom, which is the kingdom we are in right now. Right? The Mystery Babylon, the Roman Empire, the modern day Roman Empire, which is going to be destroyed. And we went through certain examples of how it's going to be destroyed. One is by nuclear fire from fighting with these other nations. Right? Because scriptures talk about that in Revelation 17, I think is verse 17. Verse 16, right? Revelation 17 verse 16 is say, and the 10 horns, again, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, it said, these shall hate the whore. So literal horns cannot hate somebody. A horn is something that just connects to an animal, and you use it to impale the next animal to fight with or whatever. A horn cannot hate somebody. That is a clear example that it's not talking about a literal dragon. Right? I'll read it over. I say, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. And this represents what? The allied countries that allied with America. They going and hate America and they're going to turn on her and burn her. You understand? Nuclear destruction. And then the Lord's going to come in now and finish everything off, as we read in 2nd Esdras. Right? So the iron feet, 7 heads, 10 horns, iron teeth, Revelations, 7 heads, 10 horns, same thing, right? Our next example of how we know that this is the last and after the last is Israel's kingdom, because the scriptures saying in Daniel also that when after the stone smote the feet, it grew as a pillar and it remained forever and ever, right? So that is the kingdom of heaven. You see, the 2nd is just 6. I'll start from 8. It say, and he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the heel of Esau. It say, for Esau is the end of the world, and that world is not the entire world blowing up, and it will have nothing existing. That world represents what? Their time of rulership. Esau will be the last one ruling before Jacob starts to rule in the kingdom forever. Right? It say, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that follow it. So that Jacob you're seeing there, that is that rock that grew and remained a pillar, you understand, and ruled forever and ever and ever. Right? That is who they're referring to. Right? I try to make it as detailed as possible for those who were ordained to understand. I hope it was edifying. With that, I say shalom, stay strong.